This is a mostly unedited clip from the Top Podcast, Episode 3, Underrated TV Shows. Hope you enjoy. Any honorable mentions for you guys?
Yes. Better Off Ted is an office sitcom that it doesn't try to do like so as much of the we're following these characters' lives. It still has like some serialized storylines, but it follows a massive company R&D team, and it's just incredibly dry humor. And for O2, it was really pushing the envelope and kind of doing some edgy stuff. And I thought that was for sure going to be on my list. And me and Mackenzie went and watched a bunch of episodes. And I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this show in 7 years, and I think I'm good to not see this show again for 7 years. So I couldn't quite bring myself to put it on my list. But definitely a very underrated comedy. Super funny, very clever.
Mm-hmm.
I have a huge list. So
All right, give us a few.
All right, I'll give you a few. All right, so first off, I have Weeds. It's an HBO show. It's about a mom who's, I think her husband dies and she has to start selling pot. I don't know why I liked it so much. I watched it in high school and it I don't know, it just blew my mind, the premise, and it spoke to me. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend most of these shows though, to be honest with you. Fresh Off the Boat, I think is super cool. It's about an Asian family, I think in the early 90s in Orlando, and the father owns a Chili's.
Welcome to
and
Chili's.
I think it's based off kind of based off of an actual real person. I can't remember his name though. I think the classic underrated that I think anybody talks about is Freaks and Geeks. You guys heard that one?
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
That was actually, I almost put it on my list, but I thought it's had such a resurgence that I kind of stepped back and decided not to add it.
That's what I did as well. It's just almost everybody on that show has done something else, and it's great.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's got Marshall from How I Met Your Mother,
Was that
Seth
Tina
Rogen,
Fey?
Franco. No,
Or is
Busty
Tina Fey
Phillips
30?
is in it.
30 Rock.
She's 30 Rock.
30 Rock. Yeah.
Who else is in it? It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Sweets from Bones is in it. The girl who goes on to play Velma in the live-action Scooby-Doo. She does other more
She
known
is in
things,
that.
but
Oh my gosh! Yeah, you're right.
yeah, literally, yeah. And it was the guy who wrote the show was the dude who did 40-Year-Old Version and all of those comedies in the 2000s.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name right now, but he just owned comedy for a while.
Yeah, was it the guy who did Step
for
Brothers and Talladega Nights and all that?
I don't remember if he did those ones. I wasn't crazy about either of those movies, but
Really?
Yeah.
uh,
Oh shit.
yeah, I thought Step Brothers is
Interesting.
wildly overrated. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was as good as people said it was.
I like Talladega Nights is funny. I love it. Definitely that mid 2000s raunchy humor that middle school me just ate up. I thought it was the funniest crap ever. And now I'm just like, ugh, for some things.
Just watch it.
That's a little much there. But I'd say overall, I still like the movie.
Yeah. Judd Apatow is the director.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all what you guys said. Silent Library. I don't know if there was a season where all I was watching was NTV shows. And it was just a really dark time for me because I was watching a lot of bad TV. But Silent Library always really stuck out to me. You guys know the premise of that show?
I've never heard of that.
I've heard your other two shows. I've never heard of that.
Oh my gosh, this one's so good. So the premise of the show is it's early 2000s, and it's really bad MTV. You guys watch any MTV shows?
I've
watched
seen
the
clips. Saw a little bit of Cribs.
Flavor of Love,
Cribs, yeah.
Cribs.
What's the one where they take
It has-
super nerdy people and turn them into a quote unquote ladies' man? I think it was all fake, but watch one of those things.
I think it's called Geek something. Yeah, I watched that show too. So it
watched
has that
the-
same vibe.
Oh god, just go for it.
No, my bad. No, you can go.
No, you're good. I'll just hit this one as an honorable mention because it's an honorable mention, so I'll give it its own slot.
Okay. Dope. All right, so yeah, so the silent library is super easy. They're in a library and they have to do like crazy things and have to stay quiet. And if they stay quiet while doing the crazy thing, they get money. And it's hosted by this like really ridiculous stereotyped Asian man, and I just ate it up as a child. I just rewatched it with my wife, and we were both dying laughing. So it really holds up. I think it's super good. Eureka. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Eureka.
My wife is a big
sci-fi
Eureka fan.
He seems like a big Eureka fan. That's awesome. I respect that a lot. I think the sci-fi, my grandfather used to love watching the Sci-Fi Channel, and I kind of sat down and I watched a lot of that. So Eureka was one of my favorites. We got Firefly, which I feel like everybody knows about Firefly, so I don't really have to talk about that.
It was okay. I think it would have been better if they had more than one season in a movie.
I agree.
And if the episode aired in order.
Yeah. My biggest problem with Firefly is that I went into it expecting it to be like change my world, because that's like the cult classic phenomenon. It's like, this thing is fantastic, and like I was a little disappointed at first, but then like going back to it, it's good. I wouldn't say it's like fantastic, but it's kind of my experience with Firefly.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the idea of like the McRib, where like it gets taken away from you.
Oh,
it gets taken away from you. And everybody's like, oh, the McRib was so good. I love the McRib. And then we give it back.
It's aight.
And they're like, oh, it's all right. Yeah, I wouldn't eat this a lot. This is questionable.
But I don't want to know what's in it. But...
Exactly. This one's really disappointing that I watched this. Blue Mountain State. I was in college when I watched this. Oh my gosh, this is such a bad show. I would never recommend this towards anybody.
What's the episode where they do like the 24-hour straight beer marathon?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched it in years.
I had a roommate who really loved that show, so I caught a couple episodes. It was funny.
Yeah. It was just like I was playing college football when I was watching this, and I just like pretended to live this life.
At a Christian university?
At a Christian university where there was no parties at all. So, yeah. I don't recommend it. I'm sad that I watched it. And then my last one is 30 Rock.
With Tina Fey?
With Tina Fey, 30 Rock. It's not that great. I will agree. I don't even think it's underrated. And it's way too long. But what's that black guy's name?
Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan, I think he's just a hoot. He reminds me of just like an old person, even though he's not
right,
old.
the dude's nuts.
Yeah, he's just a crazy dude. And Alec Baldwin, I think, is just
also nuts.
He's just also him for the whole show. I don't think he even acted at all at that show. He was just him that whole TV show, and I watched too much of that.
Have you ever heard Tracy Morgan started doing random Uber One commercials?
No.
I'd get those before podcasts where he'd be like, I'm Tracy Morgan, and I'm gonna tell you why I have Uber One, and if you have Uber One, we can be best friends. And it was so classic, just like I never understood anything this guy was doing, and I still don't.
I was wondering how bad your Tracy Morgan impression was gonna be.
I didn't try and full on do it because I want this podcast to be able to last, and that's a good way to not make it last. I do a mean Chris Rock though.
Dude, that's exciting. Yeah.
I'm also not going to do that on the mic, but you know.
I love this Chris Rock bit where he's like, yeah, I can't beef with any rappers. You know how much stuff rhymes with rock?
Yeah, and then he gets slapped by a movie star.
And rapper.
Yeah. Well, in his most recent
he is a rapper.
Special,
yeah.
He made a joke about a different rapper, and he's like, "That's a joke. I don't need any more beef with any more rappers." Like
that's the line where he's like, you know how much stuff rhymes with rock? That's special.
Honestly, he tore Will Smith a new one at the end of that special. Like, we got done, and I was like, I think Chris Rock won this altercation in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is a comedian, so
Yeah.
give me a little fun.
One of my other underrated honorable mentions is also an MTV show, but it's a much more recent one. They did a Scream TV show, and so it was like, it's just your classic Scream setup where there's a killer in a small town and you got to try and figure out who it is, and there's you got the survivor girl and you have all her friends and you're like, well, it's gonna be one of the friends probably. And it ran for 2 seasons, and then they did like a full reboot, and like they called it season 3, but it was a completely new show. But they did this really fun thing where like people would go into classic slasher scenarios, and like when you're watching a slasher movie, it's like, oh, these are the cues that this person is about to die, which in a way kind of makes slashers stop being scary because you know what's gonna happen. The show, though, would have people escape classic scenarios where they're supposed to die by the rules of slashers, and it just made the show so scary going forward because the chance that the character could live all of a sudden brought tension to the idea that they might die. And I thought that was really just a brilliant way to handle the scare factor in something that's kind of lost its edge, where previously your only option was just to be the most gory thing and just to keep upping the gross factor. And they came in and by decreasing the gross factor and decreasing the body count actually made the show more scary, which I thought was super cool.
I think you just gave that show so much love.
Yeah, I honestly, I probably should have had
it
it instead of Slasher, because those two were they were fighting for which like I didn't want to be too redundant, so it was going to be one of the two of them. But I'm glad I got to talk about both.
Mm-hmm. So
also, I was oh sorry.
No, I was going to go to my honorable mention. So go ahead.
Last point then. Yeah, I was so sure at the end of season 1. I was like, it's this guy. There's no way it's not like that's the killer. And then the killer reveal happened, and I was dead wrong. And I was like, oh.
Just like
Dang,
Slasher.
like good no, I was 0% right on this one. Like in Slasher, I had some of it, but I did not guess the whole ending. But season 2 rolls around, and it was I was like, it was the person I thought it was in season 1 is the killer in season 2. And so like I felt really good where I was like, I was right. I was right about this guy. I was just wrong about when this person would be caught. Mm-hmm. Which was a proud moment for me. I like when I'm right. If you don't know that about me.
I think most people do.
Yeah, I mean,
a bit of a
fair.
compulsion.
I just never really picked kids though.
So my one honorable mention, and the reason why it stayed off my list is because its last couple seasons really shot it up in popularity. But before, I heard about it from my cousin. And then it seemed like I was always the one telling people about this show. I'm like, you gotta go on Netflix and watch Peaky Blinders. It is freaking amazing. I love that show. It has one of my favorite actors in Cillian Murphy. And it starts out right after World War I. And it's these vets coming back to Liverpool in Birmingham. Not Liverpool, in Birmingham. Because I watched the show enough that there's a Birmingham, Michigan, and I would say it Birmingham because that's how they say it in the show, and that's kind of just what I heard. But they come back from war, and they're basically like this small run-of-the-mill like mob family, and then things just escalate, and they get bigger in power, and as they get bigger in power, more crazy stuff happens, and it is such a good show, and like it's a great like period piece, and really made the look of like the suits with like the newsboy cap that kind of started to pop off. It could have been a coincidence with that, and then also like the shave head, the undercut haircuts with the shaved sides and longer on top. They would had that in the show, and it seemed like when the show was out, that was started coming back into the mainstream again. Could be a coincidence, but who knows? And it's funny because online there's this huge debate whether to watch it with subtitles or no subtitles, and it's almost like you feel like you're superior because yeah, because you almost feel like you're superior. I'm like, yeah, I didn't watch it with subtitles. Suck on that. I can understand them because it is a very deep the Birmingham accent and all that, and it's then also why am I drawing blank on the actor? Tom Hardy, yeah, is in that show, and I love his character. It's such a great character, and yeah, I can't say enough about it. If you haven't seen Peaky Blinders, go watch it. I believe they're making a movie. There was another 6 seasons in a movie type deal, so we'll see.